wine in a water tank?
Well, not necessarily water, but wine tanks. Absolutely, Rob. Obviously, El Nino at the moment, very dry conditions. My guess is we're going to have a very good grape harvest this year. And one of the things that we've been looking at as a company at is wine storage and fermentation vessels, which we've done some of that for a number of years. But now we've launched into, obviously you can see on the tank behind us, it has quite a high upstand for the manhole. That then means that we can evacuate oxygen out of the tank, which is very important in producing a very clean wine from the grape that is harvested. So we've worked very hard on that, and we can now put manholes into the side of tanks and the appropriate stainless steel connections and stuff onto the tanks as well.
But it's still one of your water tanks or the system.
Yeah, that's the great thing about rotational moulding, isn't it? You can take a mould that produces a particular shape, and then you can increase the wall section to make it heavier, to take a higher SG or specific gravity material. So there are lots of possibilities once you've actually made a rotational mould.
Yeah, durability?
Absolutely. Polyethylene is no taint, so it won't taint the wine in any way. And in fact, obviously internationally, there's a lot of polyethylene now used in the wine industry. The effect of that is that it's much less expensive to produce polyethylene than it is stainless steel, so we can produce a much better result along the way.
I was going to ask you about price, because stainless steel is deadly expensive.
Yeah, and in actual fact over the last few years it's got alarmingly so. The companies up in Marlborough and Seddon area, obviously with the earthquake that they had, they found some of the deficiencies of stainless steel too, with the legs of tanks suddenly moving horizontally at some force.
You don't want them to tuck under, do you?
No, and what's happened is they've actually destroyed the tanks, and they're very expensive to fabricate.
And hard to come by?
There's a limited number of companies in New Zealand that can manufacture stainless steel for the wine industry, so it's put a lot of pressure on those businesses.
Now you've got special couplings obviously for the wine tanks. Do we need to order in advance?
Absolutely, and this is why we're talking about this now and not in May when or April when it's all happening. We need to get goods in from overseas, especially the stainless steel stuff that we don't have on stock. So I'd urge everybody to get their order in soon so that we can actually make provision for it.
Now, we talked a wee bit about price. Is it fair to say that these are probably less than half the price of a stainless one?
At a guess, something like less than half the cost of stainless steel, which is significant when you're trying to set up a winery or, in fact, endeavouring to make good wine. You really want to have that product in place at the right time.
And if you're going to put them outside, which a lot of the vineyards will, can you tie them down?
Absolutely, and in fact in these tanks you can see behind us we also have seismic restraints. We have that for more of the chemical stuff that we do with our tanks. We do a lot in the chemical industry where we're dealing with sodium chloride and other products that are stored in polyethylene. We have seismic restraints, but even the tie-down lugs that we've got at the top, it's possible to actually attach that to the ground reasonably easily.
Because when they don't have any wine in them, they become quite light.
They'll get a fair bit lighter, yeah, and actually when they're full of wine they're going to be quite heavy, so they'll be less likely to shift. But essentially if you have seismic shifting of the ground, the tank made of polyethylene is essentially a big bladder, so it takes it in an elastic way and deals with that, and actually during the earthquakes we had no major damage.
So what about cleaning?
Polyethylene is just one of those materials where it's very tolerant of chemicals, You think about a lot of the tanks that are used in other industries. Polyethylene is very inert. It doesn't tend to get crusts of other things joining on it because it's just inert.
So now wine is another add-on for all your other tanks like milk and colostrum and all those other things that you guys provide tanks for.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, we do molasses tanks, we do colostrum tanks, as you've mentioned. We do a large number of other materials into polyethylene. It's an engineering material, and we're using it for this purpose.